Jerk. Chatty sucks.
This is Chris. I'm stuck in the elevator. There's been a crime afoot. Yep, this is gonna be a lawsuit. Okay, I think I'll take the stairs after that.
Gangbangers, we'll say, is La Raza.
You're refusing to wear a mask?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, what's your job duty? We're stepping up, man. Did she lock us in here? Man, this lady just locked us inside of a vault. Golly.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's Friday the Roundup with Sheriff White, a moron. Want to welcome you back to my channel. Help it continue to shrink by watching my videos, sharing my videos, commenting on my videos. Turn on that notification bell and turn on all the notifications. Take that there like button, like it, dislike it. For its birthday, take it to the fanciest restaurant in town. Right after you're done eating your entrees, head to the bathroom, and then just walk on out. So today we're looking at this guy who goes by the name Michael Erline. He's an attorney practicing in California and Texas who has taken over the center seat at Delete Law's YouTube page. And stepping up for Chille de Castro, explaining why he is correct in asserting the prisons and jails are nothing more than dungeons. And why he's correct in saying that. But of course, the counselor here does not drop any facts, does not drop any statutes, any laws. It's nothing but a bunch of empty rhetoric. You think somebody who went to law school for all those years and passed the... What's that? What's that? So apparently this guy did not go to law school. He just passed something called the baby bar. I did not know that was a thing. Anyway, I'm going to leave a link to Fraud the Troll's video about this guy, where he gets into that a lot more. But anyway, I just want to put on this and show you an attorney making all sorts of arguments with no facts. So what do you say? Let's round us up a frauditor.
So what we're going to talk about, I've been swamped all day. I don't have a lot of time to hang out with you guys today. I've got another stream scheduled at my other channel at Michael Erline on YouTube. That's going to be tonight at 8:30. So I finally found an example of soliciting a trespass, a real one. So you guys get to check that out. Hey, thanks for all the ones, guys. What's up, SWE Observer? I appreciate all 154 of y'all showing up tonight. I haven't been on in a couple of days. You know, I know there's been all this crazy conspiracy theory nonsense floating around all over the internet about, I guess, Chille was telling people to petition the government, and I guess there's one lawyer who disagrees and he thinks that that might be not soliciting. So I've encouraged all of you guys to do your own legal research and don't ever listen to anybody until you do your own legal research. Even me, just do your own legal research.
So I'm pretty sure he's referring to this attorney here. Goes by the name Patrick J. Darcy. Channel name is Hoya Loya. Hooey, that is fun to say. So he recently put out a video just methodically, surgically taking all of Chille de Castro's arguments and rhetoric and tearing them apart. Now, there's an old saying amongst lawyers that goes something like, if you got the facts on your side, pound the facts. You got the law on your side, pound the law. If you ain't got neither, pound the table. And that's basically what Mr. Erline is doing right here. He's calling out Mr. Darcy, but he's offering no facts, no case law, just opinion.
And today we're gonna talk about some crazy stuff that's been going on with let's see if we can find this bad chicken here about jails. All right, so you know the so-called frauditor group, I guess pretty much anything that you say, even if it's backed up by Supreme Court precedents, will immediately say that you're crazy, or they'll just want to argue with you and tell you that you're dumb, try to get people to destroy your business, or whatever it is that they do. But I wanted to point out that the comments they make about U.S. jails not being dungeons. So prisons and jails and dungeons. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, because I don't really see much of a difference between jails and dungeons other than just the history.
So in other words, all of it?
Just that dungeons are more associated with medieval times, and dungeons are more associated with medieval times, and jails are more associated with modern times. But in essence, I think we're going to prove today that they're both the same. So let's just get into it really quick. We're going to talk a little bit about why I think that jails really are no different than dungeons. And people who attack you for saying that it's a dungeon, they should do their own research instead of just listening to whoever told them what to think. Because I get this feeling it's almost like these people are programmed to repeat anything that their great leaders tell them. It's almost like the Borg.
By the way, I'm sure Chille de Castro is going to be very happy with your performance. I'm sure he's going to tousle that hair and give you a nice pat on the back.
But I think when you do the actual research, you'll see that Chille's not really wrong. And so here we go. So prisoners are routinely subjected to horrendous conditions of confinement and brutality at the hands of jailers and other detainees. And they suffer a lot of human rights violations. Now, Black's Law Dictionary, the very first one in 1891.
Did you just cite Black's Law Dictionary 1891? I just got one thing to say to that. Bitch, please! Today's Frauded Around Up Bitch Please is brought to you by Italian AF Pizzeria. Ladies and gents, you're craving some pizza, but you want to make sure it's Italian AF? Well, go to Italian AF Pizzeria. It's so authentic, even the foliage outside says, capiche. Italian AF Pizzeria. Compromise elsewhere. Did you really just cite Black's Law Dictionary from 1891? Bitch, please! That's kind of like referring to the 59 Edsel Handbook while trying to troubleshoot your Tesla. Come on, counselor, sovereign citizen. Do better.
Defined a dungeon as an underground prison or cell that was placed in the strongest part of a fortress, a darker subterraneous prison. So really the only distinction between a dungeon and a modern jail would be if the dungeon was located in the cellar of a jail, if you were really going to make a distinction. But the other part of a dungeon that makes a dungeon is that it's enclosed in a stronghold. And just to give you a little bit of a historic understanding, so back in the old days, some prisoners wanted to escape, especially the ones who were going to be hung and sent to the gallows. And they would escape from, the Motte and Baileys or whatever it is that they had back then. So in their wisdom, the jailers of those times, they developed dungeons, which is basically like a pit, underground with no light or very little light, which is basically just like a county jail. The county jail is freezing cold when you go in there. You got no way to stay warm. You got crazy people all over the place, violent people. The jailers treat you like dog shit. And I would say that it's very similar to a dungeon.
Ooh, counselor, you're lying your ass off. You're sitting here trying to convince us that prisons and dungeons are the same thing. Are you honestly telling me that if you had a choice to serve time in a Massachusetts federal prison or in a dungeon in the Castle Anthrax 1,000 years ago, you think it's a toss-up? Yeah, right.
And we'll take a look right now. So the overlapping purposes, dungeons, jails, and prisons. So in the historical context, dungeons and prisons are both used to confine individuals, but they do have some distinctions, and it's mainly historical. Okay, dungeons typically were associated with the medieval times, while prisons are more modern institutions. And jails, of course, have been around forever, whether it's a prison or not. So jails and dungeons are actually a little closer together. Now, dungeons were often parts of castles or fortified structures used for temporary housing and holding. Hopefully you guys are liking this so far. Give me a bunch of ones if you think this is a cool topic, because I hate it when people just start calling you guys names and they don't even know what they're talking about, because there's really no difference between a dungeon or a jail. We're gonna learn this together.
Yeah, except one was about 1,000 years in the past. One was underground. One was in castles. One had the answers of basic human rights. But basically the same, right?
So dungeons were primarily used for temporary detention, just like a county jail, guys. No different than Clark County. Now, it also talks about, dungeons were also used for torture or punishment, and they were often dark or damp. Well, that depends on your view of torture.
Wait, are you trying to argue facts and law or feelings? Because torture, there is a definition in the law. I would think an attorney would know.
I mean, you're putting people who are nonviolent in a basically like a gladiator school where they can learn how to become better criminals, and they have to join a gang in order to survive, right? That's county jail or prison.
Look, sorry to jump back in so quick. But me, I thought prisons were a place you go to do punishment or do rehab. Not a place where you go to fine-tune your criminal skills.
Right? You got to, the white guys have to hang with the white guys. Black guys have to hang with black guys, Mexicans or whatever, Latinos. You see what I mean? So it's all part of that. That is torture to a lot of people. That a lot of guys come out of jail with PTSD, and there's a lot of bad cops who beat the crap out of prisoners in jail and detention personnel. I'm not saying that that's happening right now in Clark County. I don't know that to be true, but I know it happens all the time. Give me a bunch of ones if you know, or if you've been to jail and seen sheriffs beating the shit out of people when they were totally outside their bounds, exceeding the use of force. I've seen it. And I've had a lot of clients who have suffered it. So don't try to tell me that it doesn't happen, or you're high. Now, prisons, on the other hand, are institutions designed for long-term confinement, rehabilitation, or punishment, depending on the legal system. So in my opinion, jails are more like dungeons than prisons. Now, the conditions, dungeons were harsh environments, but many modern prisons lack the same amenities, and they're also unsanitary. Prisons are likely subject to more regulations and regarding the treatment of inmates, thanks to the 8th Amendment. But if you've been to prison, you see that the jailers can just convince other prisoners to beat you or kill you, and they could do it for something as little as a commissary chit. So don't tell me that doesn't go on. It does. It goes on all the time. So that's torture. So I would say that jails are probably more like prisons because of the temporary intent behind the jail and the temporary intent behind the dungeon. So jails are more like dungeons than they are like prisons, if I said that wrong.
Look, I know modern day jails and prisons ain't the most sanitary place. But the dungeon, I seriously doubt removing all the human waste, all the rats and vermin from their dungeons wasn't on the top of the guards list.
So prisons purportedly operate within a legal framework with defined procedures for arrest, trial, and incarceration. But many people believe that they're just like dungeons, lack legit legal processes, and are often used arbitrarily by those in power, like judges, for example. They just arbitrarily will just lock someone up if they don't like them. I'm sure a lot of you people have seen examples of that recently, in your opinion, now that with the Chille de Castro case. Now, architecture. Dungeons were often underground or fortified structures. They were designed to be difficult to escape, just like prisons. True, they can vary widely, but they are fortified above ground with more complex layouts and wings and cell blocks. Jails and prisons can also be towers as well, like the old dungeons had. So they both serve basically the same purposes. Dungeons are more associated with historical methods of punishment, but I mean, I think you're splitting hairs. So let's compare, Clark County, Nevada jail to a dungeon. Well, the only real argument that people could make is that, well, Clark County is modern and has contemporary legal framework, and dungeons had old legal framework. So, people say they locked legal standards, but a lot of people think that modern correctional facilities lack lawful standards. They just have these voluminous laws that nobody really obeys. I mean, cops constantly, all the drugs that are coming into these county jails, they're not coming in from family members. It's the guards that are bringing them in, guys. Come on, wake up, especially a place like Clark County. I mean, the place is completely locked down. There's no way you can get anything in there.
By the way, I'm still waiting for some facts or citations, anything.
Now you can see there in that picture that the above and bottom, that looks like a typical jail cell to me that you would see in any modern county jail, other than the fact that it's got an arched doorway. But I mean, it's just concrete, it's freezing cold, and it's basically torture. I mean, give me a bunch of ones if you think that going to jail is torture. Because I think it's torture. I think it's horrible.
Look, you keep bringing up torture, but you have yet once to cite a state or federal law that describes torture. Why is that?
You got these innocent people, or people who certainly are not violent criminals, being locked up for a month or 2 months. That could take away their ability to feed their family. They'll lose their job. I mean, the side effects of throwing someone in the can for a nonviolent crime can be catastrophic. And it's also a major cause of suicide. I mean, you could lose your family. When you get out, you got nothing. I mean, what do you have to live for? I mean, that's the Canadian government's dream right there, right? Government assisted suicide, less carbon breathers or carbon producers, right?
So is that your feeling? That unless it's a violent crime where there's a victim, you ain't getting no jail time. Is that it? Why don't you go and start advocating for that? Better yet, argue that in the court of law instead of on Chille DeCastro's YouTube page.
Of course, you know, some people think that Chille belongs there.
Yeah, it's called the justice system.
But, you know, I would say that from what I saw from this last arrest video, I mean, he didn't even get any exculpatory evidence entered into the record. I mean, his own body cam footage wasn't even used, and clearly it was exculpatory. Certainly he shouldn't be there for as long as he is. I mean, obviously that was in my opinion, that was an unfair sentence. But I hope that you guys sort of get an idea. Like, do you sort of see that there's really no difference between a dungeon or a jail when you look at the definition? But you'll always hear these people immediately attack Chille and say, "Oh, it's not a dungeon. What are you talking about?" Or torture cuffs aren't really, it's not really torture. It's a handcuff, but it is torture. And I've represented clients who have had to have their hands amputated, guys. Don't tell me it's not torture. And there's a lot of real asshole cops that'll just put them on too tight on purpose because they're punks. And there's a lot of people who get jobs in politics and government and law enforcement because they're punks, because they're narcissists. So don't just assume because somebody is in a position of authority that they're authoritative as a person. A lot of these people are lowlifes, and you need to petition and you need to hold them accountable. And that's why I think that lawyers in particular should support First Amendment auditors and people who are trying to hold law enforcement accountable. What do you guys think?
I think you didn't come here to argue facts or law or statutes. That's obvious because you didn't bring any up. You just come here to offer more rhetoric, not facts. Keep pounding that table, counselor. Well, I can tell by that sundial it's time to say goodnight. Put little beans on the fire. Little champagne cocktail on ice. And as always, cuddle up with a clean shirt and a dirty woman. Anyway, good night. I bid you adieu.